everything referenced forward from that. So on that note, I'll start. Oh wow, didn't expect it to go that long. So the point I wanted to make before I decided to do this first was, please, as questions are coming up inside of you, ask yourself a question about that question first. And that is, if I knew the answer to this question, would it just give me more spiritual knowledge? Would it just be, more stuff that I've learned? Maybe beautiful, maybe interesting, right? Or would it actually take me at least a step closer to being free, to knowing myself directly, not even through the medium of spiritual teaching or ideas, but directly? Would it set me free? And really ponder that, because it can really help sort out the stuff which is just, more interesting things for our mind to ponder over. And you'll notice that the more stuff your mind has, the more information we collect, even good non-dual information, the more questions that arise. Every one of those questions that gets answered, another question pops up in its place. So just bear that in mind. Of course, I'm open to anything. If something's really troubling somebody, please bring it up. We're not closed here. But we are here for freedom. That's what this life is about. Freedom from that I that is not referencing the stillness that is within you, but that sense of a changing self. All right, on that note, I'm going to take a sip of my latte. It's very hot. And say hello to everybody. Hello. I think my screen's a bit choppy today, isn't it? At least it isn't. At least it isn't going in and out. We've had a bit of a problem, kind of a recurring problem with the internet here where I'm living, and so it may be that. Hopefully, at some point, it'll get fixed. But for now, you're just gonna have to deal with me choppy. Okay. Hello, Rosario. Rosario is here nice and early. There's Mary and Ava, and David and Elaine. So they're saying hi to everybody, and all over the world. Wow, people from all over the world. Isn't this wonderful? So amazing. Dorte in Denmark, and Jennifer, Karen, and Roberto. Oh, in Seville, Spain this time. Wonderful. Victoria. And then there's it was Mary's friend. Yeah, I was a little delayed in getting myself ready, so I started it with that little picture up there saying, everybody, it's coming. Don't worry. There's Play On in Sweden, Rob Goldberg. Hello from Sholo, Arizona. Wonderful. One of my sons lives in Arizona. There's Mary again. Kuhulika, good to see you. And Mary, I'm glad you're here, Victoria, Mary, and so Victoria is obviously Mary's friend. Welcome. Glad to have you here. There's Ida in Norway. And let's see. Hey, Jay, hariom to you. There's Paul. Said, sorry, hi, GP. And if you ask a young kid where they are, they often outstretch their arms, pointing everywhere and saying, here. They don't point to their face or their body. Yeah. It's interesting. We don't realize it because we get so identified. We get so steeped in that sense of self. We don't realize it's not original. We don't come into the world with that. It has to come later. It's pretty amazing to recognize it. So Fatima, hello to you and to everyone. Hello, Jean. I'd like to ask how to make peace with the ego when it tries to steal one's manifestation or before it turns into suffering. I think we all know this. Love from Slovakia. Ah, well, the first thing I would say about it, um, before we, really have to understand what it is, right? How to make peace with the ego when it tries to steal one's manifestation or turns into suffering. Um, we have to know what the ego is. Set aside right now everything you know about it, all the ideas about it, because the spiritual perspective on it in so many circles. And I don't know if you asked this question before or after I started. 11, 12. So, yeah, okay, a little bit after I started. Maybe, but not maybe before I actually got into the talk about the ego. Anyway, the ego is not an entity. It's not a thing. There's nothing there. It's a thought, nothing more. It is the I thought which, in referencing itself, references something outside of you. We all have a sense of I, don't we? We have a sense of I that's there. The child has a sense of I long before the word I is anywhere near. They're capable of thinking it, saying it, let alone thinking it. They just can't. It's not there. It doesn't exist. There is no I thought. There is no but there is a sense of I. I mean, the tree has a sense of I. The mosquito has a sense of I. Your pet cat has a sense of I. Everything has a sense of I. What appears to be unique in human beings is we can become aware of that sense of I. And that sense of I is when that sense of I becomes identified with the form, your body, it becomes the belief of a separate self, which no separate self has been created, only a belief in one, and that is the ego. Now notice, there is no ego. It does not exist as a thing. It is the belief in myself as something other than what I actually am. And so that belief begins to be active within the human consciousness. And then because we forget all this, or we don't really understand it, it seems like something functioning on its own, working against me. Now, it only feels like it's working against you because it's contradicting what your desires are, what your interests are. There's this something getting in the way of you realizing some of the things in your life you want to realize. We give that the name of the ego. There's a whole lot more to it. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes on in the nervous system. And in fact, it's not actually the ego that resists any of that. It is the natural functioning of the nervous system, which has simply become, has taken on the assumption that certain things that I get or do or people that I be with are not going to be safe for me based on early childhood experience and that sort of stuff. And that's the real force behind it. And the ego is just something else projected onto that. See the ego as a projection. It's a sense of myself. It is the thought I. Now, if you dig in more deeply, really want to go to the root of it, you have to ask yourself, this manifestation that I'm trying to hold on and not let the ego steal. Why am I holding on to this? What's holding on to this? What makes this so important that I can't let go of it? That I can't be okay, even happy, whether it's there or not? Whatever it is that holds on to anything is the ego. That is the ego. The desire to hold on to something before it gets stolen by somebody else is the ego. And that itself is the cause of the suffering. The suffering isn't because something takes it away. It's the attachment to the thing that makes it possible for it to feel like it's under attack, to be taken, or has been taken away. Attachment and aversion and becoming are the main causes we experience of suffering. Now, I always like to point out the things in our life mean stuff to us. They're precious. They're beautiful. We want them in our lives. And when they go out of our lives, we feel it. We have a grief for it, a sense of loss. It's a very natural part of the human experience. But if we think it's supposed to be any other way, then we cling to these things, right, as if they were the source of our happiness. And nothing that comes and goes can bring you real, lasting happiness. Obviously, it can't. It can bring you, a certain amount of enjoyment and pleasure and what emotional happiness in the moment. But if there's a sense that I want this to remain forever, it's going to be disappointed because you can't do it. It's not possible. Nothing lasts forever. It can't. Right? And in fact, if it did, we'd get bored as hell. Okay. There'll be a time when that thing you want to hold on to so much is so irritating or boring, or you want to get rid of it. You're selling it on eBay. Please take it away. Sometimes that happens very quickly. Sometimes we get the things that we desire, and the moment we get it, we realize, my God, it's not satisfying at all. Right? Because it's never the thing that satisfies us. For a moment, we may feel a relief, right? Because we suffer until we get it. Then we suffer to hold on to it. And in between there may be a little bit of time where it's like, oh, I really like it and it's wonderful. But then there's a sense, what if I lose it? What if it takes it away? Right? The attachment is the suffering, not the thing. And really, not even the ego. The ego is behind the sense of attachment. When I say this feeling of attachment, which comes up in us human beings, the moment I say my attachment, and I start going into it, I really want to hold on to it, that I is the ego. The I that becomes aware of that says, oh, that I isn't me, that's the real you. And it's not attached to anything. It's what can actually see conditioning as conditioning. The way, all the stuff in our lives as temporary, and has no attachment to being anything else, and is what is actually capable of enjoying it when it's on its way, when it gets here, while it's here, while it's on its way out, and when it's gone. It will feel the whole range of human emotions that go through that, but there'll be a sense of contentment, a sense of presence, a sense of well-being that won't be subject to the ups and downs. It will feel them, but not be overwhelmed by them. And if what I'm saying is landing at all, you'll feel a certain sense of relief. You don't have to hold on to it. Nothing in the world can be held on to. Which really, it has the effect that of that recognition that nothing can be held, everything is temporary. Doesn't, some will say, especially in non-dual circles, that so it doesn't matter, has no importance, isn't insignificant, which is a dismissal. It's ridiculous. The reality is it makes the moment precious. The relationships in our life are precious, really precious. This moment, right now, you and I are having together, is precious because it's never going to happen again. It's had a particular flow to it, a beginning, a middle, a rhythm, like music, a denouement, and then it'll be over. Right? But it's precious. Right? And when you realize how fleeting life actually is, you're really slow to get angry, to get irritated. Patience rises up because this moment is absolutely precious because it's never ever going to come again. And so you start letting go of all the stuff that you know is going to come and go. Your happiness doesn't get tied to it. And that's when you begin to experience the alleviation and eventually the elimination of suffering. Because the suffering is all in the resistance to things being the way they are. I want things to be different than they are. That is the cause of suffering. Well, the I that wants things to be the way they are. And that I isn't actually you. That is the ego. It's very subtle. It operates very, very subtly. All right. I hope that helps, Fatima. Thank you for your such a beautiful and honest question. Hey, Savvy Stacker. Good to see you, Ali. Happy day. Hey, GP. I watched a documentary yesterday, and the lesson given was that the best we could do is take responsibility for our thoughts about the future of the world as we create consciousness. Yeah, don't see a question in there, but my reaction is yes, obviously. We here, are not in any sort of position, such a position of power or influence that we are single-handedly going to be able to make a difference in the state of the world. But first, even if you were in that position, what would be the influence that you would exert? What would be the power that you would exercise? Without first having the power over the sense of the ego, right? The selfishness, the self-centeredness, the indifference that is inherent in the human ego. As long as we have not addressed that, we will just make a different kind of mess than the people who are making the mess now. So when you're taking responsibility for your thoughts about the future and about everything, take responsibility for the one thought that matters above all, and that is the I thought. Who am I? Everything in your life, every experience, good, bad, or indifferent, every feeling, every thought arises from that one thought. I am this or that. Starting with I am the body. The I thought is the beginning of all of it. If you can get to that root thought, you don't have to worry about taking responsibility for any of the others because they're all nothing but a variation on that theme. They are all that. It is the root of all thoughts. If you can uproot that, which is what this whole practice of non-duality is actually about, it is not trying to adjust thoughts. It's trying to let's go right to the thought of every thought, the thought behind every thought. Call it the ego, call it the person, call it the essential I thought. That's what Ramana Maharshi called it. It's what's behind everything. And just look. Right? Before we can have a you, there has to be an I to say you. There has to be an I to say he, she, it, they, them. Right? Even to say we, there has to be an I. That's why it's first person, singular. And then you can get second person and third person, and all the variations and all the objects and everything else. But everything is perceived from this point, isn't it? So if we really look at what is essential, which is what non-dual self-inquiry is about, look at what is most essential. I want to get to the root of something. If I get to the root of something, I don't have to worry about all of this stuff up here. Because I can spend forever trimming the things up here. This thought comes up, I'm going to get rid of that. This thought comes up, I'm going, oh, not a good thought, right? It's like playing whack-a-mole, right? They keep popping up, right? And you keep hitting them down again. They just keep coming. Why? Because they're the root's still there that's producing them. So what's behind all of the thoughts? Now it's a profound difference in approach to our lives, but it's not hard. It's not hard. You only have to worry about one thing: the I thought. When I say the word I, what do I mean? And who am I? Everything I perceive can't be me, right? By definition. I mean, this is just common sense, right? I'm not this computer sitting in front of me. I'm not the, car outside. I'm not the trees outside. I'm not these clothes, right? Anything that I can perceive is obviously not me. Subject, object. I'm the subject. That's the object. Take it deeper inside, and you find, well, wait, while it's very intimate and very close, I'm out looking at thoughts. I'm looking at emotions. I'm looking at sensations. They're much, much closer, but they can't be me either. So no thought is me. No emotion is me. No sensation is me. Doesn't make them bad or wrong or anything. It's just they're not me. Say that tree's not me. It doesn't make the tree bad, right? I don't have to do anything about the tree. It's fine right where it is. It's just not me. So you keep going until you run out of objects, and then you have to ask, well, who am I that is looking at it? And the reason it's called non-duality is because I can't step outside of myself and look back as one thing looks at another. It's not two. I am not two. I cannot see myself. Then how do I know myself? Well, I must know myself, because you are. But you don't know you are like you know the computer in front of you, or the phone, or the stuff outside, which is a subject-object. It's direct. It's me knowing me. That knowing is non-dual. It's a non-dual, non-phenomenal self-recognition. That's self-awareness, and that's you. And that sense of I'm just here, and everything else is on this screen of consciousness. That sense got itself all entangled in the objects and this thought of I. But notice, that sense of yourself isn't a thought. It's not even the thought of I. It's nothing. It's just your own presence, which is indescribable, but obvious. You're here, and you know you're here. Really obvious. Nobody can deny it, right? Nobody can convince you that you exist if you don't, right? You do, and you just know it. That's non-dual knowledge, Vedanta, beyond knowledge. It's not subject-object knowledge. So, from there, a whole different sense of I originates. This is the I am. This is the pure sense of I am. Not I am this or that, but I just am. And just the pureness which we all feel. And that becoming freed from the I am this or that enjoys that, what they call the bliss of just pure existence. Where you're not stuck as anything. You're not anyone particular, which means you can become anyone. You can put on any costume you like, go anywhere you like, do anything you like. You won't get you won't get stuck there. And also, every thought that presents itself to you won't get past the door, right? If it doesn't conform to that false sense of identity, a thought, oh, I shouldn't have this thought, or should have this thought, this good thought, bad thought, won't even occur to you. It just happen, right? And it's just like, no, I don't like that. Nobody has to say, well, why don't you should like that. Well, I don't like that. Don't like it, right? But all it I hope I'm expressing this well, because it really is very, very simple. Non-duality is really simple. It gets very complicated. People, all sorts of crazy stuff with it, and all sorts of intellectual things about it, and all sorts of esoteric language that you can't understand. It's really simple. Look deeply towards yourself, towards that which is looking. Find that which is looking. One of my favorite lines, my favorite quotes from St. Francis of Assisi: what you are looking for is where you are looking. That's where you are. You're the one hearing my words right now. And that one is the real I. It's got all sorts of stuff attached to it. It's I this or I that, but just the pure experience of consciousness. You're hearing my words. You're seeing this up here. That which is registering all of that is the one infinite self. Hope that was useful for you all. Hello, Barbro in Sweden. Another the Swedish contingency. Growing audience in Sweden. I like it. Liza, hola. Kensho, hello. Hello, LG, hello to you. Meetings in Stillness, AGP, hello to you. Hendrik, good to see you, Hendrik. Hey now, hello from Palm Springs. All right, haven't been there in a very long time. There's David Yeager. Prem Arnav from Dresden, Germany. Hello, Prem. And Carolina, hi GP, hi for you. Victoria, thanks, Mary. There's Isabel, Isabel and Jonas, both here. Wonderful, good to see you guys. Meetings in Stillness, hi Paul. I guess you guys know each other. Mary, yesterday I had listened to a short video of dear Evan Gregor. He talked about getting involved with too many spiritual teachings and how to distinguish what's right for you personally, and how certain teachings can bring up ways of creating a way of being that is not what we truly want. I went into a wonderful realization that I've been holding myself captive to a certain way of being because that's how I was taught to be. I saw that all I ever really wanted was to be my authentic self with no judgments. Yes, that's all we want. I just want the freedom to be me. And that's what's been inhibited. And the path back from this identification that is the ego can take some time. It can take various twists and turns. There'll be various practices and things along the road that will help you, that will take you to a certain point. Right? No practice whatsoever is going to take you all the way. No practice can do. That's not what they're for. They're not made to be a lifetime thing. They're made to have a particular effect, bring you to a certain point, and then hand you off to the next practice or to that which is not a practice. Notice what I just asked you all to do. Notice that what you're looking at is not you. Take it a little bit deeper. The thoughts, the emotions, the sensations, you're looking at, you're seeing, so they can't be you. So then what am I? That's not a practice, is it? It's just, yes, this is what we're doing. It's not I'm practicing being the authentic self. I'm looking for it. That's not a practice. Meditation can actually serve non-dual self-inquiry, but but usually the way it's used, it's really a practice, and oftentimes I will use it as a practice just to help people um, uh, break the habit of wanting everything to be different, of not allowing things to be the way they are, and to actually kind of drop the conflict we have between with our emotions and our thoughts and that sort of thing. Kind of bring that space. That's a practice. Right? But then eventually it comes to the place where you can make this inquiry. Right? I use EFT a lot. Also a practice. Some people are recommended as a practice. Right? Something you do regularly to prepare to bring about certain effects and certain changes. Right? Non-dual self-inquiry is not a practice, and it's not a teaching. All I do is say, look here. Just look. Everything I say, confirm for yourself. If I say, you can see your thoughts, right? You say, yes, I see my thoughts. I said, well then, are the thoughts you? If the assumption is, if I can see it, it can't be me, subject-object, then that would have to apply to thoughts too. So, so the thoughts aren't me. Okay, it's not a teaching. You're looking for yourself. If you say, yeah, they are me, well, we can talk about it. We can probe it together and see if that's really the case. Because I want you to probe it so you see for yourself. Because if you see for yourself, you don't need teaching. What do you need teaching for? You see it. It's plain as the nose on your face. Once you saw that 2 + 2 = 4, you weren't fooled by anything else. It wasn't a big thing, right? It was just, yeah, this is the way it works. This is the way it is. Okay. And it just keeps going. Well, then what am I? And you find yourself kind of looking, you're looking in a place that's kind of, it's murky. You can't see anything there, right? But you are kind of, which is kind of a practice. You're learning that, well, if I can see it, it can't be me. So anything that pops up in my mind or in my emotions as an answer to that question, who am I? Well, that can't be it, because it's just something else I'm looking at. And you get more and more and more precise, but it's not a practice like that. Practice is, I do this and I do this and do this and I get this result. You're not looking for a result. You're looking for you. And so, yeah. So every practice, right, is temporary. And we live in a time where there's just an unprecedented amount of spiritual information, even about non-duality, which is kind of a strange little thread off to the side. But in there's all sorts of information, ideas about it. And I see new videos popping up all the time on YouTube, and we can get all mixed up and absorbed in all sorts of different kinds of teachings, which is why I recommend, find a teacher that you trust, stick with it. It may not be the ultimate, right? It may not be the last one you ever had. I've had several. But stay with it, right? Dig the well deep enough so you know if this well has got good water or bad. It doesn't mean you do whatever the teacher says to do. If they make you start doing things, then they're not a real teacher, and hightail it. But if all they do is invite you to look and continue to look, and then keep pointing out things along the way that you see for yourself, then they're the real thing. And they're not going to mistreat you. They'll never diminish you. They will always build you up, encourage. They may be kind of, tough love kind of thing occasionally, shake the tree a little bit, but they will always They will always be enhancing your sense of autonomy, and the power of your looking, and the sense of your own value, always. But our minds love information. They're addicted to it. Can't get enough of it. Matter of fact, it is the most unknown and virulent addiction there is. The addiction to thinking, and it is an addiction. We keep wanting to think, I want to think about it, and that drives us wanting more and more information, exploring all sorts of different spiritual teachings and the like. But the same thing, different practices, and whatever it might be. What about this one? Oh, this one. Oh, this one. Which is just a sense that one of these things is somehow going to be a magic bullet. There are no magic bullets. There aren't. There's only the direct looking to find yourself. The real, honest desire to know yourself as you are, to know the truth, really know it. Not as an idea that you can talk about, but as the very life that you're living. So, I'll leave it with that. Liza, hi G, personal question for you. Ooh, bitter. When you and your ex-wife astrologer met and got married, did you guys believe you were soulmates brought together by the universe for a divine purpose? Not really. I never put much stock in the whole soulmate thing, because there's been many people in my life that I really felt a connection to and a closeness to, right? And so there wasn't a soulmate, right? There's people I feel very close to, right? I could even call soulmate, right? But it's not like a romantic thing there at all. It's just there's a connection. And as you walk this path and you know yourself better, you will find that the connection to others on the path will become much, much deeper, much, much richer, right? And palpable, quite real. Not all of them are going to be a mate, right? They have a big house, maybe. So somebody who shows up in your life that's capable of being a life partner, a romantic life partner, right, that you're going to share the rest of your, as long as you can, together, can be along that path of connection and unity of energy, and unity of life motivation, and quest for truth, but not necessarily. They don't have to go together, right? And oftentimes people can have a very strong connection at that level, but because there isn't that same kind of unity around the search for truth, it's not going to be able to sustain itself for the long haul, because there's a fundamental thing missing. So, there's all sorts of people that are in your life for various reasons, various periods of time. What attracts you and the like. I can see a lot of what attracted me at that time, which was 25 years, a long time ago. Wasn't really stable. Wasn't really sound. It wasn't really self-aware. It was still being driven by conditioning, and that's what oftentimes happens, is that it is driven by conditioning. It's the unaware part in me and the unaware part in you becoming, seeing themselves in each other. recognizing each other, and that's a feeling of compatibility. It is a feeling of compatibility. But because it isn't the real you, it's going to change. It's going to change because you've done spiritual inquiry that's going to have an effect on it that's going to make it more transparent and more cooperative, right? Or it's just going to change because conditioning changes, because everything changes, right? So it's either changing to become more and more transparent and open to the impulses and the leadings and the inspiration that's coming from the real you, or it's just going to change because of causes and conditions, which is what it did in the first place. And that's when we get, oh, this wasn't really my soulmate. Well, there was a genuine connection there, right, on one level, but that connection couldn't sustain itself because didn't have enough, the roots weren't deep enough. That's simple. And that was the case for me. So, anyway, take my best I can do about relationships and that sort of thing. Mary, I just wanted to be my authentic self. That's, let me circle back to that for a second, because that's all we want. We inherently have a sense that I need the freedom of self-expression, because that's what got inhibited in the beginning. Right? The trauma of early life was a disconnect from my capacity to give myself expression. The authentic me, the natural child, right? That we see in all children, that natural, unpretentious authenticness that's there in children, which we absolutely adore, and then we squeeze out of it. And so that, you talk about with no self-judgments. Well, the judgments are there in order to keep you from being that, because it was dangerous to do so. I talk about this in a lot of the classes I've done, especially in the EFT class, like where all this came from. But the most direct and simplest, right, and most powerful way and quickest to get back to the authentic self is this non-dual self-inquiry. I've got all sorts of other ways that I teach it to people who simply cannot go here quite yet. Through conditioning and the emotional system and the nervous system and trauma and all the different ways we get disconnected from ourselves. I only do that to try to open the door for this kind of inquiry, which is much more primary and much quicker than that whole approach. If you do the inquiry, you will very quickly come to see that since I am not my thoughts, and I am not my emotions, and I am not my sensations, that I'm not my conditioning. I am not this person I thought I was. And you'll see that the ego, the sense of self, the I thought, is a thought, just another thought that you didn't recognize wasn't you. The same thing with our emotions, which can feel more overwhelming because, they're much more palpable and intimate than even our thoughts are. But you see that all those thoughts, emotions, well, they're part of the conditioning as well. None of them are me. And then the whole structure of the ego begins to dissolve, and sometimes just outright collapses right in front of your eyes. Because it's not real. It's just a thought. There's nothing actually there except my belief in it. But even the one who believes in it isn't real. Isn't you either. You can see him or her too. This is it's the ultimate way. It's the way everyone is eventually going to have to get here. I say that not because I made it up, because I've looked at myself and I go, yeah, everyone's going to get everything else is a temporary means to develop the person to the point where they can do this, where they can actually make this kind of an inquiry. Um, and then you find that the true authentic self has always been there. It's never been lost. It's never been tainted. And in fact, it's never actually even been conditioned. And it is what you've always been, and it's what's hearing my words right now. And there never was a self that was judging. There was never another self. There was never another self that was distracted. There was never another self that believed itself to be anything other than that. In fact, it was never born, and it's never going to die, and you've always been that. Not theoretically, but as your reality. It is, in fact, what you are right now. It is, in fact, witnessing all of this. What is behind those eyes that are looking at the screen right now, those ears, right? It is the empty infinity of the self, not a person. Hello, Ava. Ava. I am that I am, which is aware of the person which I feel to be. Yeah, just what I was saying. This feeling of being a person comes automatically in daily life and keeps me in this false identification. I'll read the rest and then get back to it. In daily life, I mean, when doing all this day-to-day activity, there's no time enough to be so vigilant, and this false identification gets to be automatic and quick. Sadhana time is much shorter than time of just doing daily stuff, and this false identification persists. So your 3 breaths message, so your 3 breaths method, how to remember that all the time. Okay. All right. I want you to look at something a little more closely, right? This feeling of being a person, which is the sense of ego, right? I am this person. And it's a feeling, isn't it? Right? I really feel like I'm this body. It doesn't feel like it's not an actual fact. This feeling of being a person, and you're aware of the person, right? You're aware of this feeling of being a person. So obviously you're aware of that. You're not that. You're not the feeling. You're not the person. It comes automatically in daily life and keeps me in this false identification. Who's that me that is being kept in the false identification? Can the infinite, unlimited, boundless, birthless and deathless self be kept in a false identification? So that me is the place you need to look. Oh, wow. Aren't you also aware of that me that's caught in the false identification? So that me isn't you either. And you're not caught in the self-identification. If you're caught, if the self gets caught, there's no way out. Right? The self is caught. It can only be liberated because it was never caught in the first place. You have never been caught. You've never believed yourself to be the person. The belief of in a person is held by a believer, which is itself a belief. The belief and the believer are one. That is the belief, the dream and the dreamer. And so, yes, for that one, oh my, I'm in and out of it all the time. I forget, right? I need to remember. I need to do more sadhana. That goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. How do you remember it all time? Are you not aware of this very subtle movement of saying, I forgot who I am, I have to remember? Muji put it beautifully. He said, I am. Before the idea that I could forget or the idea that I needed to remember was believed. The I that believes they forgot and needs to remember is also being seen by you, who has no need to remember and can never forget. Even in the midst of all of that going on, was there not the sense of I there? Right? It was always there. Right? Even you said, I'm not aware of it. Right? Something's aware of it not being aware. Right? Right? It's subtle. I have to admit, it is very subtle. But this is the deepening. Right? Another level, you go, oh wow, I'm looking at that too. Oh, and I just hadn't noticed that I was looking at it, so I mistook it for myself. And so I think of myself as being this person doing the sadhana, wanting, give me some advice. Do I do 3 breaths? How do I remember this all the time? You're not that person either. Right? That's all the dream of somebody becoming enlightened. There's no such thing. That is just an appearance. If awakening or enlightenment was something that was attained, it would be something that could be lost, which means it must be here now. It's just not being seen. Of course, you can't see it because it's what's doing the seeing. And what's doing the seeing can't see. Your eyes cannot see themselves. They can't. You cannot see yourself because you're empty. You're complete. There's no attributes there whatsoever. It is pure being. Is that getting in there, Ava? Kuhulika. So I'm not the pattern of behaviors I've been exhibiting over the years. No, you're not. For example, in many situations, I shy away from too much interaction. So my mind recognizes certain traits as me. Yes, perfect. What you find is that in certain situations, the human nervous system has simply adapted itself for self-protection to kind of move away from some things, move towards other things. And we notice this. Of course, the only reason you can notice it is because it's not you. That is the conditioning. Upon the conditioning, we have projected the sense of self and say, this is me. So your mind sees these traits and says, I am shy. I move away. I have a problem. Right? That I's fault. That I is the sense of I that's identified with what in fact is nothing but conditioning. Right? There's no person there even. There's no thoughts. There's no there's no reality to any of that. Right? It is just conditioning. It is just patterns. There's nobody there. There's no more of a self in the conditioned patterns than there is a self in your computer. So if the computer says I, there's nobody there saying I. We have associated that which actually is conscious, the conscious reality of I am, has associated itself with what's appearing in the world. And that is the creation of the person, the ego. That same sense of I am, withdrawing from identification, turns this way and becomes the absolute. That which is there even before the sense of I am. Because you couldn't even have a sense of I am if you weren't there first. That's the absolute. That's the real you. The unchanging, undying, completely unknowable. It's just what you are. Hello, Leslie. Good to see you. Oh, I forgot. I skipped one here. Fatima, thank you for your answer. I think we are often afraid that if we let go, the physical manifestation won't happen. Yes, exactly. And so we cling to it, right? It has to not matter whether it happens at all, because if it matters, you're going to hang on to it and you will suffer. End of story. It may happen, it may not, but it won't matter anymore. You're free. You're happy. And at that point, happiness will take form in your life as stuff that will really be satisfying. Because oftentimes these things we want to manifest, it's our ego trying to substantiate ourselves. And it's not really what I want. Which is not not true, but it's also not the point. I understood. I'm so happy. So happy that. Good. I have to leave, but I really appreciate this, GP. You're welcome, Paul. Hello, Marcel. Good to see you. Good to see you. Tao. Oh, Ryan. Look at you. Wonderful. Ryan and I go back a bit from when before COVID, I was doing some meetings like this live meetup. I have a few people show up, and Ryan was one of them. So good to see you. So good to see you. Tao Druidry. What is your favorite non-dual traditional approach or teacher? Very much enjoying Taoism, for instance. Well, I had exposure to many, many, many different ones. Probably more than more than I needed. But my own particular love of knowledge, pride in knowledge, and attachment to thinking and understanding. So it really is the my own teacher, and his teacher, and one that isn't part of that lineage, Nisargadatta, but is exact same stuff, same stuff. You'll see it in Buddhism, particularly Zen Buddhism. You see it in Taoism. But what I found with the lineage, Ramana, Papaji, and Muji, it was the most direct. Because I practiced Zen, learned Zen Buddhism, I practiced Zen meditation, and I actually still occasionally sit with a Zen group to do meditation. But I also saw some, I can see the absolute pure non-dual teaching running through it, but I can also see a lot of overhead on it. Part of it necessary, the culture it came from, and all that kind of thing. But I just found it to be the most direct for me. So I encourage anyone to just pursue what's of interest to you. But remember, we're not in it for the knowledge. We're in it for freedom. It's got to set us free from identifying with that which we are not, and reveal that which we actually are. Reveal, not become, but reveal. And the Tao is absolutely beautiful. It's really the approach to functioning in the world. It's the basis of energy healing. Really, just how life actually functions. And in it, you will find the thread of the non-dual. But for me, the most direct I've found is this one, the one that I am promoting excitedly here. So, if that answers your question, my friend. So, Paul, non-dual teachers come in all shapes and sizes. It's true. And my most helpful teacher was on the 10 most wanted list decades ago, and serviced 18 years in prison, all shapes and sizes. Yeah, well, we're all in the prison of our mind and our ego. Somebody can be in a prison and discover, and they get free. And some people in the prison are already more free than a lot of people walking around, because it's our minds, it's our egos, it's a sense of identification. That's what has us all in prison. It's got our world in prison. So, bye-bye, Paul. Yeah. Loved your answer to Lizzie, said Mary Sykes. Thank you. Lizzie, Liza? Mary, yes, GP. My natural self is all I want, without any religious teachings that are dogmatic. I love hearing you over and over again. It's like you are helping me out of prison. um, well, yeah, that's kind of the mission, right? The prison, which is completely constructed out of mind stuff, none of which is actually real. I help you out of prison by showing you there never was a prison. It was completely made up by the mind, believed, and then lived in as if it were real. that's the whole thing. It was you were never in prison. There was never a door to knock on. You never were identified with anything. All of that was part of the appearance, part of the play of God, if you will. So it was. I forgot to write 3 breaths. Or yeah, right. Whenever you remember, do it. Whenever you don't. But remember this: right? Awareness, what you actually are, is always there, and it's only an identification on some subtle level with the person that makes us feel as if I'm not there, aware of all of it, the entire play that is going on, which all of it, the person, the ego, all of it came from the self. It is all the emanation of the self, experiencing itself. It all came from you, and all returns to you. ME23, namaskar to you. Sergey, God bless, all beautiful, you with great love. All blessed to all of you. Jay, aren't there relationships that are polar opposites and still sustain? Because I would say, if it was anyone else other than my mom, they would have went their separate ways. Well, what's going on underneath, right, and how they appear on the surface. Personalities can be very, very different, and yet have an essential energy that's incredibly compatible, right? And oftentimes relationships are held together, were forcibly held together, right? Right, by the culture. You're better off murdering somebody than getting a divorce. Period. And, they were it was just forced or arranged, right? Relationships in the modern day, I mean, it's really very unstable because we just haven't really been doing it all that long, really making our own choices and that sort of thing. We get attracted and repelled by people on all different levels simultaneously. Become conscious of those. That's all you can do, is recognize that it's going to happen on every single level. And you can have personalities that don't seem like at all, and yet something inside it works very beautifully, right? So yeah, it's not something. It's not cut and dry. You can't make a checklist for this kind of thing. It's just every single circumstance is different because everyone is individually different, with individual experience and past, and meeting somebody else who's also that completely unique to all things. So there's none of this can be cookie cutter. So yeah, so yeah, opposites attract, right? Oh no, like attracts like, right? Good luck. The mind can't figure this stuff out, all right? So we don't even try. We're just aware of the fact that on an energetic level, this stuff happens, right? So if you pay more attention to the energetic signature, the energetic feeling going on, things are a whole lot clearer, right? Because that's kind of the level where life, which is the manifestation of the self, actually functions. But don't forget, you are not the manifestation. You are the self that is being manifested. Ava says, yes, I'm aware of this belief and I see it. Good. So when you don't see it, recognize that that also is being seen, and you are not the one that either sees it or doesn't see it. Because you see both. So you're always there. You are always there. Victoria, lovely, wonderful. Hi, GP. How to tell if a desire is authentic or it comes from your conditioning? Don't attach to it. Be willing to let it go. If you're willing to let it go, to actually take a step back and look at it and feel it, just feel the actual feeling of the desire, right? And then be undetached enough to feel everything that's going on around you. You'll feel all the energy. You'll feel a part that wants to grab onto it. And this is great. This is going to be the most wonderful thing in the whole world. Maybe another part that's, this is no good. I want that. Another part that's like, whoa, danger, can't go there. You'll see all of these playing in front of you when you are detached. And I don't mean indifferent, because obviously we're not indifferent about this kind of thing. Sorry, neighbors. Hopefully the mic's not picking it up. Oh, my battery's going dead. Good time to ask my neighbors to be quiet and change my battery. Now, hold on a second, folks. I'll be right back. Oops, this little device I have for a microphone is really a battery hog. Anyway, Victoria, back to you. So it's attachment forms a particular kind of relationship or aversion. Desire comes out, oh, no good. Or it's, oh yeah, I really want that. Right? At that moment, the desire is, you can't really feel the desire anymore because it's being interpreted from a particular position. So when I'm talking about detachment, I'm not talking about indifference, right? I'm not talking about I don't want to feel that, I'm not trying transcending emotions, all of that, which is nonsense. What I'm saying, what detachment really is I want it to be pure. I want to feel this, experience this as it actually is, and not how I would be interpreting it. The interpretation is what comes from the ego or conditioning. Right? Conditioning says this kind of desire good, this kind of desire bad. Right? So look at it. Look at it like this. You have a desire to eat, right? There's no question as to whether or not you need to eat or not, right? Conditioning has nothing to say about that. Yeah, we got to eat, right? But we also have a desire for companionship, for community, for happiness, for self-expression, for satisfying work. All of these are desires too. All desire is natural and pure. Look at a little kid. Right? All their desires and stuff that they have. None of it was caused by conditioning. Desire is all pure, innocent, and natural. Desire does not cause conditioning. Conditioning happens later when interpretations get put on it: good, bad, sinful, virtuous, allowable, not allowable. So what we're sorting through in this process is not this desire is authentic, this one's coming from conditioning. Nothing comes from conditioning. Right? The ego never does anything. It is always an interpretation of what's actually here, and what we're trying to do is get that out of the way so we can actually see the desire as it is, which is pure and natural. And when we do that, there's a connection to life, right? That will actually tell you which are more important than others. So it'll prioritize and actually provide the energy for those that are truly important to fulfill themselves. Because the energy of fulfillment is in the desire. If You see them as they actually are, which is pure. And that means that in their purity, they have their own, like every cell in your body is like a living thing, right? Every cell in your body has a particular life cycle. Some last a day. There's some cells in your body, their entire life lasts one day. Others that last years. Right? But no cell in your body lives the entire time that you're using it before the whole thing has to, okay, we're done with this model. We're bringing out the next. We're not even making parts for it anymore. Desire's like that. It's like an energetic being, right, that has its own life cycle. It arises, does its thing, and will leave. If it's not interfered with, if it's not grabbed onto and made into something, oh, if I get this desire, then I'll be happy, that's the ego. That's conditioning. Right? That I shouldn't ever have that, that's not good. Our people don't do that kind of thing, then that's also conditioning. The attachment or the aversion to it. But when you realize that your innate natural sense of self and well-being does not depend upon the fulfillment or absence of the fulfillment of any desire, that's the stable ground upon which you live, then the desires can come and go. You can see them. Some will come, be completely fulfilled, and you'll enjoy them completely. Others will come and go. And you will have the experience of it, all the emotional wonder and all of it, right? And yet underneath there will be this baseline of contentment and equanimity and wisdom. You'll be able to tell the difference. But the important thing to note is the ego is like a circus clown. It doesn't actually do anything. The acrobats perform, death-defying feats up above without a net. The audience jumps to its feet in applause. The circus clowns come out and take a bow. They take the bow and take the credit for something they never did. They judge that's not good. No, you can't have that. Same thing, right? And this is the conditioning we went through. Notice it's not the desire. It's always a reaction to what's naturally there. We want to just kind of dissolve all of that so we can actually see in our hearts, from our hearts, what's really here. So, does that answer it for you, Victoria? Please let me know. Mary, so when we appear to forget the now or the present or go into the past or future, are we not dreaming? This appears to be like what is happening when we are dreaming. Yes, the only difference is you're aware that you're dreaming. It's the only difference. Yeah, it's happening. And the one who's dreaming is not me. That's what it means to be awake. It doesn't mean the dream suddenly disappears. It also means the person in the dream wakes up, because they don't. You wake up from them. Okay? But even the waking up is seen by that which is eternally awake, which is awakeness itself, which is what you really are. We keep moving more and more, further and further into the point where the dream is but this. And you've always been this. So when you're seeing yourself, I'm back, my memories, right? I'm forgetting the now. What notices that you've forgotten the now? What can say, oh, the now got forgotten? Right? The only thing that could possibly say that is the now, which has been here the whole time. Ava, if I know it's a belief, only belief, why is it so persistent? To whom is it persistent? It's only persistence the one who believes it, and you're not them. Hello, Ella. Me too here, listening and looking for goosebumps. Oh, no goosebumps yet, huh? I gotta try harder. Um, uh, I Sometimes I wonder if I'm just going too far too fast, right? Because I don't want to confuse people. Right? I'm really diving down to the quintessential, to that which sees absolutely everything. We can speak about this at many, many different levels. Right? At the level of the belief and the believer. And the believer has certain, we can, in fact, show the believer that these beliefs are not quite true. What we can't do is show the believer that they're not true. You can bring somebody to a deep spiritual, devotional sense of a total surrender to God, but they haven't yet surrendered themselves. The I that is doing the surrendering needs to be surrendered. As Ramana Maharshi put it, the I removes the I, yet remains the I. It is just... I don't know if I'm going too far. Maybe I'll back up a little bit, and the like. I don't know. I'm just kind of looking at the things that are coming out of my mouth right now. I'm going, okay, is this okay? If we back up a little bit, I have a sense of just back up a little. You'll notice that you are identified with many things. We have all sorts of different thoughts about ourselves, right? I'm like this, I'm not like that. And just notice that over time those have changed. How you saw yourself has changed over time. Of course it has. We don't see ourselves the same as we did when we were 10. Of course, you're 20. 10. The self-image has been changing all the way along. Right? So the self-image can't possibly be you because it's changing all the time. The way I see myself. And how I see myself is really the lens through which I'm going to see the rest of the world. I'm going to interpret the whole rest of the world and how it works and everyone in it and the people I'm with, the relationships I have, the clothes I wear, are all going to be coming from that self-image. So that self-image is something to be looked at and to be questioned. And we also have a sense, all of us, really, that something in me has been the same the whole time. So there's been this sense of the same, and yet how I see myself has been changing all the time. Now you could even look at that as past lives, how I saw myself in past lives. Obviously different than I see myself right now. So we can then question and say, is the self-image I'm holding a true representation of what I am? Because it's been changing, right? And the self-image, as it's been developing, I can see now has been the product of conditioning and influences and all sorts of things that didn't come directly from me. I think we can all agree that that's happened. And we can say, okay, well, then I want to create a better self-image. which is great. A lot of people do, right? That's what the whole self-help movement is about, and you know, and the development of a much more positive, a much more free, a much more functional. And who can argue with that, right? Much more functional self-image, but it's still a self-image, and it's going to change too, isn't it? And if you really look at it, nothing wrong with any of that stuff. And useful. For a lot of people, it's the way they have to go. But at some point you can kind of say, well, is it just another self-image, right? No matter what image I create, it's not going to be any more true than this one. It may be more useful, more functional in in my life, because my life's changing. It'd be a better match, much more appropriate for the way my life is at that point. But is it actually what I am? Well, if all of these are just images and they're always changing, well, what am I? And at that point, you've fallen very naturally into non-duality, into the big question, who am I? Right? It's not that, there's some, it's not a big mystery kind of thing. It's just a very natural growth of individuals that this is going to happen. And when it does, in the right time and right circumstances, something will show up in your life that will direct you more towards an inward looking rather than an outward looking. And a real desire for truth will emerge. A real desire to know what I actually am. Something that isn't going to be changing, that I'm not going to trade in next year for a better version of me. Because it's just a better version. What am I? Is that all there is to me? It's just one new set of conditions after another? Replacing this one with that? Is that it? Is that all there is to me? Or is there something more? Well, I think we all instinctively have the sense there's something more here. And we start, and that grows enough to the point where it actually starts taking over what we're interested in, what we look at, the things we read, the people we listen to. And we get a taste for something that begins, it seems in our hearts like something is giving me an answer to that. It's pointing me towards something that does seem to be much more substantial. And something that isn't changing all the time. But in order to complete that journey, right, we have to become increasingly aware of the level upon level upon level of and subtlety upon subtlety that sense of identity that has been changing all the time operates. Because it isn't just an idea. It's in the body. It's in the nervous system. It's in the reactions. It's my likes and my dislikes. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And the process of non-dual self-inquiry is becoming increasingly aware of that. And when I become aware of that, I realize that if I can see it, it can't be me. It just gets subtler and subtler and subtler until finally it dissolves. The sense of a separate self, the sense of just an identity dissolves. And I am no longer that. The formation of various identities goes on, but you're no longer attached to them. You no longer think it's you. So a sense of you will rise up, tastes will change, right? Things will be different. Hairstyles will change, beard will come, beard will go, all of these things. Right? But you know who you now are, the unchanging center, right? And so there's no disturbance there. It can change as much as it wants, and it will, and it will. Right? But now you know who you are. Right? So all the rest can be there, and you maintain that place of equanimity, calmness, and joy, happiness. Everything's just easier, quieter, because that's the natural state of the self. The sense of identity is inherently unstable. It's always changing, morphing into different things. Right, that's what it does. It doesn't have to do anything else. But it's not going to be stable. You're not going to find peace and stillness and security there because it's not peaceful. It's insecure because it's changing. And what we long for is that sense of stability, that sense of unchanged, the sense of peace, the sense of presence, right? And from there, suddenly, instead of experiencing life as if you were that particular identity, you experience it as the self, as who you really are, which means relationships are intimate and deep. They're not superficial anymore. It's not one identity talking to another. It's genuine connection of true self to itself, right? And the true meaning of love of all kinds becomes obvious. It is the recognition of myself. It is the joy, the intimacy, the ecstasy of oneness. Okay, so I'll press on here for a bit. Ava, just keep looking. I see you everyone. I see you on Wednesday. Well, every other. It's going to start being every Wednesday, because I will be starting. I think this Wednesday, the following Wednesday, somewhere in September, I will be opening up the self-inquiry sangha, which I will be with people on Zoom, so we can interact much more personally and in depth, and explore these things on different levels. I have and will, in that setting, even use EFT. If I see something that really needs some emotional processing rather than non-dual inquiry, I pull that out of my toolbox. It actually started that way, it just as an EFT thing, but it just kept, people just kept waking up on me. It was terrible. It was just terrible. So, at any rate, yeah, there's a very natural growth. Don't be in a hurry. When I really go down to the finite level here, and I'm really poking at very subtle stuff at people, I don't want to lose anybody. And I don't want anybody to feel as, oh my God, I can't get it. No, it's not like that. Grace is present. The true self is loving, just infinitely love. There's nothing but love, which means it's infinitely patient and will do anything at all to bring you home, to bring that sense of I back to herself. Just the desire for truth. I want to know the truth. God is a sucker for that prayer. Cannot say no. Must say yes. And so every event in your life becomes the means by which that happens. It is about love, which we experience as grace. You're being gently, lovingly, graciously brought back home to yourself. And there's no, you can't go too fast, you can't go too slow, you can't show up late, you can't miss your opportunity. It can't happen, because it's the truth of you, which will never ever change, right? and is nothing but love. So yeah, don't worry. If I say something that you don't get, don't pay any attention to it. if I don't get to your question, because we're almost at 2 hours and there's a ton left, um, um, don't be listening to my answers to somebody saying, well, I can go, have a sandwich now because it's not my question. When you come back, I'll get my question. Because all the answers are for all of us. The same perspective, the same insights work everywhere. Because oftentimes the question comes from the roots, comes from the branches, but the answer will come from the roots. So it will be yours. Every answer is for you. Every question is from you. We are doing each other's inquiry for each other. So I don't want to make this hard for anybody. You are always met where you are. You're always loved right where you are. Warts and all the flaws you think you have, all the things that are wrong, all the things you think need to be fixed, they mean nothing to love. Mean nothing to love. You are absolutely lovable, just as you are. And it is that love that is calling you. It is that perfect love that is actually your very nature. On the path, it feels as if there is something outside of ourselves that is calling us, something in us, a higher self, a true self, God, whatever. That feeling of being called by something other than myself is simply the way it feels. That's the appearance. That's part of the awakening experience. And eventually that sense of me and other selves. You see that what was calling you was you the whole time, but we got lost in the experience of being a person, which was exactly what the intention was. Get lost as the person and experience as the person. This is the only way that the self, your true self, could experience at all. And it had to be total. It had to forget. There had to be that forgetfulness. That is, it had to create someone who would forget. Because true self, can't forget. Can't ever forget. If it forgot, man, we're all screwed. So every step along the way is the enlightenment. It's not an event in the future. It's right this moment, right this second. It's happening. It is this moment, just as it is. Exactly whatever you are experiencing right now. That's it. Right. Even the doubts, even the I forgot. I can't remember. I lost it. Right. Even that. There's nothing that doesn't exist, that doesn't come from and is cognized by that self that is pure love. So let me skim through the questions here. Let's see. I'm going to go down towards the bottom. David and Elaine said, it's profound. Thanks, G. Going deep is important, we think, as it helps to expose and illuminates those areas where a subtle sense of ego, a separate self, can still hide in the shadows. Yeah, hide in the shadows or hide right behind your eyeballs. And yes, it is very subtle, but love the journey. Love every moment of self-realization. Where that's not me either. Oh, look at that. Thank you. Enjoy being the devotional bhakti worshipper, who thanks God for absolutely everything. Enjoy that part of it. Enjoy this trip. It's supposed to go this way. This is the way it's supposed to happen. It's not an accident. Every sage every enlightened being that ever has walked the planet has gone through exactly what you are going through right this second. Maybe not with the internet and YouTube, but every single one of us every of them has been through exactly this same kind of thing. It is the experience of awakening. And in the awakening, you find you were never asleep in the first place. But what a great dream it was. What a great dream. You know, it's like waking up after you have a really good dream and I go, oh man, that was good. That was good. You're getting everything because your mind will always be fresh. D-death, yes, we grow based on where our rootedness. Roots need to be grounded. I mean, mind it that this is a test, only a test. Yeah, patience, not divided into many as here. One. Love it. Let's see. Good luck, sir. God bless you more and more. Separate spiritual into reality realm. Heaven and earth are one. Yes. Yeah, they are actually one. They're just perceived differently from the point of perception. But, you know, so what? We will always perceive ourselves as separate, but we're not. Let's see. Ella says there's been. Oh, good. It's much up to me receiving your words, not only your choice of words, that make it all happen. Oh, wonderful. I was worried I wasn't gonna get any goosebumps. Yeah, just being alive is enough. Proximity, greatest distance one can see is the very nearness of God. Yeah, amen. Amen. Yeah. Where does God hide? As someone who doesn't know God. Yeah. But that's God doing the hiring. Yeah. Victoria says, thank you, G. The GP. The question come to my mind as I was trying to discern if I was trying to get something out of a particular desire. Oh, what do I do? I'll press the wrong button. Wait, I just lost it. Where'd you go, Victoria? Victoria. I saw you there a second. I was reading it and then I hit a wrong button and away went. Black Iris, thank you. Lovely. I will live up to that. Coming from me, from the real me. Is life and the self the same? Yes. You are life and you are the witness to life. And you are the experiencer of life. It is all one, appearing as many, because without the many there is no experience. But the one having the experience is one, and all the different aspects are that one. And that one is you. By the way, I'm not saintly either. I could see a lot of him and me. Let's see. Victoria, I lost you. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay. Oops. No, I don't want to show it. Question came to my mind. I was trying to discern if I was trying to get something out of a particular desire that seems something the ego wants is a desire that follows me since puberty. But when I analyzed, I could only see it's something that my ego wants. Okay. So then, if it's persisting, right, and you see that the ego, oh, this seems like an ego want, but remember, the ego cannot create anything. It can only attach and project. So see if you can get to the desire, right, directly in its pure innocence, right, without any projection on it whatsoever. And then you'll be able to tell if it's meaningful to you. It'll be authentic, right? But it may be relevant for you. You may not care. Whereas the ego may care very much about that because it's fulfilling the ego's need to be somebody and do something, right? So The real payoff here is to not know whether the desire is not knowing whether this is true desire, I should really have this, or, but being able to discern what is just the flow of life, which all desire is, and what is the ego that projects onto the flow of life. Right? There's nothing wrong with the flow of life. The Tao is perfect, pristine, and beautiful. Right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's only when it gets misinterpreted by that sense of a person that all the mischief gets created. And that's when we think, oh, is this good? Is this not good? No, only the ego. Well, is this good? Is it not good? Because it's trying to find a place where it can grab it or push it away. Because that's all it wants to do. Right? Just grab it or push it away. Which is what substantial. That's the whole nature of the ego, attachment and aversion. Right? Without that, it just is what it is. And then you, the real you, the discerning you, the self-aware you can go, unimportant. Or, yeah, that's important. I'm going to give it some time. You see, it's all innocent. It's a long run of life to you. Fulfill self-imagery. It's forever. It never runs out. If all we're doing is one self-image after another, it just goes on with the whole life, makes another life, and do it some more. Fatima, you're not going too far. It's just hard to imagine that our real self is unmanifested oneness. Well, you can't imagine it. Yeah, that's the whole point. You can't. If you could, it wouldn't be it. Because the only thing to be imagined is some form, thought form in the mind. It has no form. You can't imagine it. You can only be it. And you are already that. Which is why our search, we're looking for the self, we end up trying to find something, subtle thing, amorphous thing, spirit-like thing, but a thing. Right? It cannot be known. It cannot be seen. It cannot be conceived of. It is unknowable, except as it knowing itself, you knowing yourself. And you already know it. It's in that place that simply knows, I exist, I am. That's it. That sense, I exist, I am, which is itself perceivable, right, is the closest you can get to the imperceivable. While believing that the one who is even listening to this satsang is a person, me. Deep patterns. Yeah. That's why I say, be very patient, because that which is revealing the deep patterns to you, that which even let you know that they're deep patterns, where you could see, these patterns are this subtlety, boy, it's really dark down there, is the self. That, how else could it be seen? The patterns can't say it's a deep pattern, right? They don't see themselves in any kind of context, right? Sense ago, this isn't true. So when you see something, that's not really true. It doesn't feel right. Well, where's that coming from? What can recognize something is not true other than the truth? Falsity cannot recognize. Another falsity, you can't recognize the truth. The only thing you go, you're false because you're not me. You're not the same as me. Right? But it can't recognize anything other than itself. What recognizes that something is seen, something is believed, something is a deep pattern, something is a shallow pattern, something gets it, something doesn't get it, something's happy, something's sad. What recognizes what is true and what isn't, except the truth, which means you're already experiencing the truth as yourself, as just the I see that's not true. That I that sees it's not true is the true I. Then there is the sense I that says, I, the person, am seeing this or not seeing it. And that is the subtlety of it. So let's see. Actually, events. Got my goosebumps. Yay. Thank you, Carolina. Um, Thank you for your divine patience. You haven't worn me out yet, Ava. Yeah, you've been trying. You've been trying. But you haven't worn me out yet. Um, uh, Mary Sykes is thanking Ava. Uh, Jamie, hi, Jamie. Oh, looks like a guitar in hand. Um, Mary, everybody. Okay, good. I think it's a good time to call it, and let me go have some lunch. So, yeah. Thank you, all my loves. Um, uh, I'll announce and give a link next week for anybody who might want to join the self-help sangha. Uh, just have a low monthly subscription to it, so I can always carve out the time and also, be able to spend more time with people and look at your face anyway, live, but Zoom. So it's a Zoom call where we all see each other. It really does have a wonderful feeling of a sangha. People get some really beautiful relationships, have meaningful and have developed amongst people who are all on this path, this path of true awakening. So thank you all, thank you all, thank you all, thank you all. It's such a joy and honor to be with you, to engage with you and share what is the most important thing for me. Till next time, namaste.